Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. The Necropolis Path of Exile League has been revealed, and now we begin the week-long anxious wait to get in and play with it. I'm not going to watch the official trailer or the live stream reveal here. I will link those in the video description if you want to see them, though I am going to go through the webpage and give a basic recap of it and see what is in here. So in Path of Exile Necropolis, help Undertaker Aramor lay the spirits of the Eternal Empire to rest and experiment with their souls to create powerful items. Our March expansion introduces the Necropolis Challenge League, a plethora of changes to in-game, new Tier 17 maps and bosses, and new transfigured gyms. So this guy right here is Undertaker Aramor, and this league is going to be very in-depth and crazy. So in the Necropolis League, the wrathful spirits have began to haunt the monsters of Rayclast, unleashing their ancient fury and sorrow onto the world. The Undertaker provides you with the Lantern of Aramor, a powerful family heirloom which illuminates the spirits haunting monsters throughout Rayclast. With it, the Undertaker hopes to employ you to rid Rayclast of this menace and further his cryptic cause. So these enemies here have these wrathful spirits on them. Now, one of the craziest things I think about this league is that going into each zone, you can now see all the monster types that are in that zone, and you can configure what spirits, I guess, are inhabiting which monsters to make it easier or more difficult if you're that kind of person. Examine the spirits haunting Rayclast by peering through the Lantern of Aramor. The lantern allows you to manipulate the spirits, letting you configure which monsters they haunt. It would be wise to take your time with your decisions, for the spirits are not forgiving. So give the zombies that are going to melee attack you the 3 additional projectiles. Right, give the weaker enemies the increased damage, and you can configure that. There's another screenshot here. There are these empowered ones, increased rarity of items dropped, but I think it only applies to these monsters. The XP gain, you can kind of configure it whichever way you want. I guess there's different levels of it, which is really crazy just in its own right, but that's just the beginning of this league mechanic. And here is a monster that has a spirit haunting it, and another screenshot as well. Bury the Dead. The Undertaker's mysterious soul experiments can coalesce into powerful items. Take the corpses of haunted monsters to the Necropolis, bury them in one of many graves in the cemetery, and exercise them to forge items from their souls. So it seems that each different monster type has a different mod that you can use to craft items. This is a Kitava's Herald that increases the mod tier of speed modifiers on an item if you were to use it in crafting. Roa Mare armor items do not have a strength requirement. That's insane. Rotting Damned, corpse level 82. I don't know if the corpse level will matter. Maybe it does matter for the tiering of mods. Chance you craft a second item for each undead corpse exercised. 600% increased chance of speed modifiers. A Coconut Crab. Undying Wretch, +1 explicit modifier. And this is an empty coffin that you can store a corpse in for trading. Now, from what I understand, it's not like a random roll on the monster. If you're trying to craft a specific item using Necropolis, in this case it's giving us options for speed items, you would have to go hunt down those monsters. So go to the map that those monsters are in, and that's where you could kind of target farm specific things with it. Perform powerful exorcisms. Bury many haunted monsters strategically to utilize a vast combination of different crafting modifiers, then exercise them to achieve your perfect item. Exorcise corpses haunted by the family members of famous Eternal Empire bloodlines to create new unique items. This full dragon scale has gems can be socketed in this item, ignoring socket color as a mod on it. A hubris circlet with +1 max power charges and increased curse effect rolled on it. These are normally mods you can't get on a normal item. Got some stealth gloves with attacks have chance to maim on hit, and boots that have movement speed cannot be modified to below base value. That's a really cool mod to have, though we don't know from just this item whether or not that mod is a prefix or a suffix. There's only the armor ES and movement speed prefixes, fire, cold res, or suffixes, so don't know where that one comes out. So when you're planting all of the corpses in the graveyard, like when you go to exercise them, you get a menu to pick a base type, and this one has 300% increased chance of attribute modifiers, 600% increased chance of life modifiers, and lightning modifiers are 600% rarer. And then you can exercise that and create the weapon of your choice in this case. And there's lots of slots in that graveyard, so you can really do a lot with it, and there's lots of different monsters in the game, so you should be able to like kind of target craft or attempt to target craft certain items using this. It's very in-depth. There's a lot going on with the League mechanic itself, and there's even Atlas passives on the Atlas passive tree to further scale into it, should you want to. Powerful foes beget powerful rewards. Defeating haunted monsters cause you to find areas with monsters that are blessed by devoted spirits. Devoted spirits cause monsters to grant you a wide variety of different rewards, such as dropping more and better items, spawning shrines that grant buffs, and allowing you to find an NPC that gives you a unique item. These devoted spirits, I believe, are the yellow mods that were in the screenshot. The Necropolis expansion also introduces 14 new unique items, 5 of which are exclusive to the Necropolis League. Now, this one is really cool. The Wraith Lord Bone Circlet. This is a new drop off of a T17 map boss that is like a new tier of Uber boss, which is wild. But it has 4 abyssal sockets, +2 all minion skill gems, +1 maximum number of specters per socketed ghastly eye jewel, and you cannot have non-specter minions. This is an insane helmet. I love it. Mana Storm has been reworked as well. It has really big rolls for the flat mana regen, and mana gain on kill. Gives increased mana recovery from flasks, and when you cast a spell, sacrifice all of your mana to gain added max lightning damage equal to 50% of sacrificed mana for 4 seconds. I don't know if this one drops off of the new top tier bosses as well. I'll get into that more in a bit. The Tides of Time. This is a new belt that drops off of Uber Shaper, I believe, that can grant you Life Flask, Mana Flask, and Utility Flask charges every 3 seconds. It seems like they all roll from 1 to 3, and you get increased Flask effect, and get insane increased mana recovery from flasks, life recovery from flasks. Pretty unique belt there. The Celestial Brace gives attack speed per fortification, can add to maximum fortification, and melee hits from strike skills fortify. I think these would probably need to have some kind of double corrupt to really set it apart from a lot of other glove types, but very cool, unique. Ravenous Passion changes rage to grant cast speed instead of attack speed, and spell damage instead of attack damage, and you gain 15 rage after spending a total of 200 mana. So it's really easy to make builds that spend a lot of mana, so you can get a lot of rage generation from this helmet. Another very cool, unique being added. It doesn't stop there though. Embers of the Allflame. Find special monster packs trapped within Embers of the Allflame, a powerful relic of Rayclast. Place these in the Lantern of Aramor to encounter abnormal monsters that yield special rewards. Ember of Frogs. Pack monsters are harmless frogs. So this has a large pack size to it, but you can convert a certain enemy type that's in a zone into frogs. Then there's the All-Flame Ember of Tahoa. Pack monsters can drop Karubi tattoos. So we get access to tattoos this league, though those have been reworked as I'll go through in the patch notes. All-Flame Ember of Toll. Pack monsters can drop Splinters of Toll. Same with Timeless Splinters. And Ember of Untainted Beasts. Pack monsters reward greatly increased experience. It's another way you can alter the monsters in the zone with the Lantern of Aramor. Face a new tier of in-game difficulty. Path of Exile Necropolis introduces a new tier of in-game difficulty which tests your characters in new ways. Tier 17 maps. They feature a new set of bosses, more powerful monsters, and new rewards. Access the absolute pinnacle of Path of Exile's most difficult bosses by completing these maps and proving your worth. So we know there are 5 different T17 maps. All of these are going to have a uber boss tied to them. One of them is shown here. This is one of the unique heist bosses, but it's going to be an Uber version of it. I think there's a Uber Katarina fight, or it's some kind of abyssal boss thing. I believe there's going to be a Veritania one. She was in one of the initial teasers. But these maps are now how you get access to the Uber bosses. So these fragments can drop in T17 maps, and you use them to go do the Uber bosses as the Atlas passives to convert your boss invitations and whatnot into the Uber versions. They are being done away with. You now have to be able to go into these T17 maps to get access to the Uber bosses, which is cool. I kind of like the way they did this, as mentioned in the Q&A, that if you're capable of doing the in-game bosses, you shouldn't have to grind through the lower difficulty boss. So, like, once your character is built to this point, I think you might really just be pushed into farming these T17 maps, which roll unmodifiable with a wider range of mods on them. Oh yes, Uhtred, the expedition boss, is being one of these map bosses as well. Monsters take 100% reduced extra damage from critical strikes, so not being able to roll these can be really difficult for every build to be able to go into every one of them, and the mods are pretty ridiculous on them. 90% reduced effective auras, that's a steep cost just from that alone. So it'll be interesting to get to see this league as we go along, and as a result of this Uber fragment, the uniques have been shifted a bit from what drops from the lesser versions of the boss and the Uber versions. So Starforge now only comes from Uber Shaper, for example. Unlock additional Atlas trees. In this expansion, unlock access to multiple Atlas passive skill trees, which can be used to enhance your in-game experience to its maximum potential. Earn up to 2 extra trees by progressing through the Atlas, and choose your desired playstyle for each in-game map. I am so happy about this as a SSF player, because I'm constantly wanting to switch into different things, but now I can have myself a harvest tree set up for whenever I need to go back and farm more harvest without having to fully respec my entire Atlas passive tree, and we can unlock up to 3 of these. Reworked in-game content systems, Scarabs, which can be used to enhance your in-game maps, have been overhauled. A myriad of new options have been added, giving ways to push the challenges and rewards of in-game maps to new heights. The Atlas passive skill tree has also been improved to give access to content in more ways than ever before. So there are now scarabs tied to each of the masters. There are no more master missions, I guess, the daily things you build up. You can get scarabs for those instead. It doesn't show any of those here, but there's a delirium scarab now, and an ultimatum scarab, but there's not rusted, polished, gilded, whatnot. There's different types of this scarab. The ultimatum scarab of bribing gives ultimatum XP and grants better rewards. Ultimatum scarab of dueling always leads to a unique boss if possible. Ultimatum scarab of catalyzing, ultimatum encounters only offer catalysts as rewards. And the ultimatum scarab of inscription. I thought this was only inscribed ultimatums, but this says on it, in areas offering catalysts will offer inscribed ultimatums instead. So this kind of reads more like if you were to have been given catalysts as the reward, that is instead an inscribed ultimatum, whereas this one only gives catalysts, but maybe you can combine them and run both of them at once, and then guarantee all ultimatum or inscribed ultimatums. Divination Scarab of Curation. 10% more divination cards found in area per different favored map. Divination card drops in area are replaced by those of your favored maps. So now you can farm map specific divination cards in different maps using this Scarab. And the Divination Scarab of Completion. Divination cards which drop in area have a 20% chance to drop as a full stack instead. Also insane. And this is just like a couple of them. There are so many Scarabs. Then there are new gems. Path of Exile Necropolis includes new skill and support gems and a range of new transfigured gems. Automate your war cries and instant spells with the call to arms and automation skills, and empower your wand attacks with the Sacred Wisp support. If you've been waiting for a transfigured version of your favorite skill, you'll now be able to play exciting new variants of Poisonous Concoction, Tornado, Ice Shot, and more. So we've got a Tornado of Elemental Turbulence. You can have a maximum of 3 tornadoes instead of just the 1. And 100% of the physical damage of the skill gets converted on these. Ice Shot of Penetration. Projectiles pierce additional targets. Modifiers to number of projectiles do not apply to this skill. Converts all physical damage to cold in 2 cones perpendicular to the target. So this might behave differently than a normal Ice Shot. Artillery Ballista of Focus Fire. Plus 3 max number of summoned ballista totems. Fires up to 5 arrows at different targets. I guess you kind of have to read the description of these to actually know, because the mods at the bottom don't really tell you. Propels a number of fiery arrows into the air, each targeting a specific enemy. Arrows deal area damage to enemies around it on landing. I mean, that does kind of sound like the normal artillery ballista, but instead of firing in a line, I guess they can target a single enemy. Call to arms. Each supported Warcry will trigger when its cooldown is over. All your Warcries share their cooldowns. And automation. While this is active, supported spells will be repeatedly triggered when the cooldown is over. And now, instead of being able to bind an instant skill to left click, we will have to use this if we want that kind of maximum uptime on the skill, or have to work in another keybind to do so, which really hurts some things. And other things, this is kind of a okay workaround. I feel like the steel skin uptime that I'm usually using it for can easily be covered by automation, but I'll go over that more in the patch notes as well. And then there are also new supporter packs as well. These Solar and Eldritch packs. And as usual, these have some crazy effects in them. Another level up effect that like blows up minions on the screen, but it's only visual effects. Crazy stuff there. So then to the patch notes. Now I'm going to first off just jump to the big things that jumped out to me in this, the like most notable changes that might go unnoticed by a lot of people. Down here in Monster Balance, rare monster item bonus mechanics are now rarer, and the following item bonus mechanics have been removed. Items dropped are converted to gems. Items dropped are converted to scarabs. Items dropped have all white sockets. Items dropped are duplicated. Slain rare monster gives increased experience, and slain rare monster gives increased gem experience. This right here, the monster XP and gem XP from killing monsters is being removed as a possibility from killing rare monsters. This is going to greatly change the ability to level quickly. This was a massive buff when it was introduced to leveling, as well as Legion 5-way farming. There's so many rare monsters in there. That's what really ticked that up to the next level, making it by far the best way to level to 100. But getting rid of this XP boost possibility, it's going to take a lot longer to get to level 100 because of that change. That's a pretty big one. Then I'm going to cherry pick out the skills that would have been highly recommended to leagues start with based on their performance in previous leagues. Summon Raging Spirit no longer grants the spirit's additional melee attack damage as it levels. So it used to gain up to 38% more damage as Summon Raging Spirits leveled. That's going away. Penance Brand of Dissipation has had its activation frequency big time nerfed, as well as the damage effectiveness and the flat damage on the gym. Big nerf to Penance Brand. Crossblades of Catabasis I played with last league, now deals 20% more cold damage over time. I don't think that's enough to make this skill viable for any kind of bossing, but it is a really nice map clearer. Ball Lightning of Static can no longer be used by totems. I know several people were planning around trying to league start using that. That's gone. Archmage can no longer support brand or orb skills. Big changes to Archmage overall, but again, Archmage Storm brand is dead. The Soul Eater buff has been reworked. Now you have a maximum of 45 souls that can be consumed, with each providing 5% attack and cast speed. For monsters, this buff also provides less damage taken per soul consumed. 1 soul is lost every 0.5 seconds if you have not gained any souls in the past 4 seconds. So now, Soul Eater monsters, as long as you're not killing other enemies, they will lose the crazy buff over time that they get. Really cool change there. And then there's this instant skills can no longer be bound to left click. There's been a lot of talk about this change. I think one thing that's really gone without much mention is the Armageddon brand recall build that you would run around with brand recall on your left click and cast brand recall on cooldown every time, but I guess now with the automation that will work in there, but you have to give up another gem socket. Necromancer's being reworked a bit for the bone barrier or whatever that skill was. I never used it, so I don't know what that is, but I don't know about the change for mines. There is a new mastery that detonates mines when you move. Like, those were the big things that jumped into my head as far as the instant skills can no longer be bound to left click. I liked having my steel skin just with maximum uptime and removing bleed, but for guard skills, I'm feeling a little bit more okay with it now, given the Q&A discussion around how this worked. But I think the detonate mines, it's definitely going to hurt using that one or losing that automation there. And yeah, those are the big things that jumped out to me when I first went through this. I am going to kind of skim through this and do a little bit more deep dive into it, though a lot of this Necropolis stuff I had already just went over. We get the new gems, new transfigured gems. There's an elemental hit, incinerate, kinetic blast, summon holy relic, a veiled scarab currency item, which reveals a random scarab when clicked. So I guess that's like a stacked deck almost. Veiled chaos orbs have been renamed to veiled orbs, and now they remove a mod and add a random veiled modifier to an item and drop off of Katarina. Stack size of a bunch of currency is going up to 20. Exalted Regals Divine stack decks, pretty big. Added the Uber Boss fragments, 14 unique items, minimap icons for strong boxes. Upgrading a Pantheon power will be, it's account bound now, so you only have to do it once per account per league. A myriad of small improvements and surprises during the campaign, one of which they showed off is that the Dweller of the Deep is encased in like essence crystal that you run in Act 1 to get a passive. There's going to be legions and rituals and lots of new stuff throughout the campaign. The crafting recipe for movement speed rank 1 can now be found in the city of Sarn. Alternate art unique items can now be converted into account-bound microtransactions using the new /convert race reward chat command. That's really cool. I have a few of these myself, and I might do that with them. The Witch has received audio dialogue for Part 2 of Path of Exile. This was really cool. The Duelist received it last time, and that was pretty nifty. And I will mention that there's a lot of dialogue things that happen after talking to Sin, or letting Sin finish talking after killing bosses and things that I discovered when playing on a duelist last league. So if you're hunting for all of the new audio dialogue, take that into account before you teleport out after killing bosses. There's sometimes dialogue there. In-game improvements. There's so much. Reworking Uber bosses, I went over, and all of their Atlas passive keystones have been removed. I can make this bigger. T17 maps have 20% quality and are unmodifiable. There's only 5 of them. For each of these bosses, an existing unique item has been removed from the core drop pool and now exclusively has a chance to drop from those specific bosses. Mana Storm is one of those, and the Abyssal Helmet for Specters. The Dark Seer unique scepter has +2 all spell skill gems, max mana per level, max ES per level, no longer has the global damage. That might be one of these as well. +2 all spell gems is crazy. Looked at Mana Storm and Wraith Lord. Yoke of Suffering now has enemies take increased damage for each type of ailment you've inflicted on them, previously 5%. Uber Pinnacle bosses now have completely distinct item drop pools. They've made a few tweaks to the Uber Pinnacle boss fights so their difficulties are more balanced with one another. That could be good. The Cirrus fight and Exarch fights were absolutely wild. I hope those get changed to be a little bit tamer. Place 5 of the same fragment in the map device to challenge the relevant Uber Pinnacle boss. You no longer need to worry about arranging the fragments in the right order. So I guess the fragments can just drop from running the maps, not just the boss thing, because considering you need 5 of them, you probably are just going to get them while farming through the maps. And the 5th slot of the map device is now unlocked on completing a non-Valdos T17 map. So if you want to run a 5-way Legion encounter, you're going to have to do one of those. And Void Stones now provide a chance for T16 maps to become T17. Okay, so 2% chance for a T16 map to be a T17 with Void Stones. And there might be other ways to scale that, I don't know. Sextants have been removed, as well as the Master Mission Selector. All of that's being done away with. You can no longer earn Einhar, Alva, June, or Nico Master Missions. Kirak missions still exist, though. Sextants can no longer drop. No more compasses. Existing Awakened Sextants, Elevated Sextants, Charged Compasses, and all Scarabs will be converted to Veiled Scarabs upon logging in after the launch of 3.24. Hold up. Standard. My currency tab here in Standard, I have like 4,000 Awakened Sextants. Like these ones down here used to be the lesser versions of Sextants. That's crazy. That's going to be a lot of Scarabs that I can have in Standard. So previous sources of Sextant rewards, such as Legion, Ritual, Incursion, have been replaced with Scarabs. Inscribed ultimatums that required Sextants now require stacked decks. Existing Forbidden Sanctums that award Sextants will award Veiled Scarabs. Crucible passive skill that causes an item to sell for additional sextants instead causes an item to sell for 1 or 2 of each cartography scarab depending on tier of the modifier. Valdo's maps that had a chance to convert maps into charged compasses now convert to scarabs, and the harvest craft for maps to not consume sextants has been removed. The monochrome and underground forest div cards have been disabled. The Scarab rework, I guess it's not going into everything here, which I guess we might not get to see what they do, but loot filter is going to need to be able to identify them, so we'll get that information at some point. This right here is going to be what the Scarab tab looks like now. There's really so many of them. And they're not like based on tiers, they all have different effects, which is insane. It's going to be a lot of fun to explore. Each type of Scarab now has multiple versions, so if you want to fully invest into a single type of content, you can do so. So that seems to confirm that you can use multiple Scarabs of the same type, which it changes everything. Absolutely changes everything. All Scarabs are now world drops, no longer have tiers. Some might be rarer than others, but the intention is that there will be a lot more options than before, and more interesting combinations to consider. If you want to target specific Scarabs, Betrayal has been updated to include most of them. There's going to be 20 new Scarabs. Incursion, Delve, Betrayal, and Bestiary are now accessible through Scarabs and have more reliable investment options on the Atlas tree. Not only this, you can now have Alva, Nico, June, and Einhar all appear together in the same map. The 10 Atlas notable passives that cause your maps to have no chance to contain specific content now also cause Scarabs found in your maps to not be that type. And the wording has been changed a bit there. Scarab vendor recipes been removed, and divination cards with Scarabs have been disabled. Maven invitations no longer drop. Instead, you just talk to Kirak, he'll give you one, though you do have to craft it in a window that he provides rather than just being able to take it, which I don't like. That means you have to put currency in your inventory and then go craft the map in a separate window like the master memory maps. All existing Maven invitations, including quest versions, will be deleted. A good thing about this, though, is that in this tab of the fragment stash, no longer gonna have to go from, like, you go to the fragment stash and then you go to the Eldritch Maven and then you go here to get to these. Like, this will just be for storing invitations without the extra tab inside of it. Atlas passive tree changes. You get additional Atlas passive trees, which is so cool. And then added a bunch of keystones and things. Like, to me, reading through changes to the Atlas passive tree, I'm just going to have to see it, honestly. A lot of these are related to the new League content anyways. So, like, I'm not sure exactly what it means to reveal a random craft when buried. I'll have to kind of see on that. If there are fewer than 50 monsters remaining, final map bosses are empowered by Affliction Wisps. That's crazy. New Keystone, which gives 20 Atlas passive skill points, but makes it so Scarabs cannot be found in your maps. And you can't use fragments or Scarabs in the map device with maps. The 7th Gate, Growing Hordes, All Hands, Stream of Consciousness, Grand Design, and Wandering Path Atlas Keystones have been removed. The number of additional bosses summoned by the Destructive Play Atlas Keystone passive is now higher if there are fewer monsters remaining in the map. That's big. So no more just like boss rushing to get as much value out of Destructive Play. If you clear the map, you can get more rewards out of that. That's cool. Scarab clusters on the tree to be able to target Essence, Beyond, Torment, Reliquary, Cartography, Anarchy, Ambush, Harbinger, and Domination Scarabs. So we'll be able to add shrines with Scarabs, farm essences with Scarabs, cool stuff. Another Scarab cluster for the map boss to have a chance to drop additional Scarab. That's going to be a requirement, I think, for me this league. Increase Scarabs found in your maps. Yep, I'm going to be doing that. New Scarab cluster with the notable significant troves. Provides unique monsters in your maps 200% increased chance to drop Scarabs. More increased Scarabs. Okay, there's increased Scarabs all over the place. So you can just blast maps and farm for Scarabs and specialize in not much stuff, and then when you want to specialize in a specific thing, go ham on it because you have so many new Scarabs to work with. I think I'm probably the most excited about the Scarab changes. I've always loved Scarabs and what they can do, but this is just on another level. Invasive adversaries. Your maps contain 10% more monster packs consisting of difficult and rewarding monsters. Interesting. Increased effect of mods on map per 5% map quality. You increase the mods on maps too much, like you have no life recovery or ES recovery on certain things. There are some map mods that just do not scale well with increased effect of mods on maps. Monsters have a chance to avoid elemental ailments. If you're playing in an Ignite build, you would normally have that 30% chance to get the Ignite off, but you can scale it probably to a point that monsters are immune to ailments. A new incursion cluster, Treasure Hunt, causes incursions in your maps to contain cursed treasures. Don't know what that means, but sounds cool. Something new. Delve cluster, Voltaxic Sulfite veins and chests found in your maps contain doomed spirits. A Bestiary cluster giving red beasts 50% chance to break free. Beasts which break free gain Bestial Rage, and defeating beasts grant hunters cunning per Bestial Rage on the defeated target. Don't know what that means, but also sounds cool. Syndicate members obtain additional equipment item. That's scary. Those can really make them OP. 20% more rarity of items from defeated Syndicate members in maps per equipment item they have. That's kind of cool. Another Atlas notable for Beyond causes you to gain demonic power on defeating Beyond boss. See, so much of this, like, it sounds cool, but what does that do? Like, Great Migration has been replaced with Two-Hearted Hunt for beasts. It causes red beasts captured in your maps to have a 50% chance to gain a modifier that provides a chance to not be consumed when sacrificed at the blood altar, and causes red beasts in your maps to have an additional bestiary modifier. Interesting. Looks like no more Scarab strongboxes. Additional chance to be openable again. Rare monsters in maps have a 50% increased chance to drop Scarabs per monster mod affecting them. More Scarab stuff. Better Conqueror map drop rates. That's good. The essences found are a tier higher, has been changed to have at least one essence at highest tier possible. So it's going to be harder to farm quite as many essences by getting Shriekings and duplicating them from that. Map boss can be granted with a random essence modifier from any imprisoned monsters slain in your maps, and causes remnants of corruption used on imprisoned monsters in your maps to replace all essences with one of the essences on the imprisoned monster. No longer duplicates Shrieking essences. Interesting. So essences, big changes. A bunch of increased chance for stuff, make it easier to get masters. Yeah, a lot of just increased spawn chances of things. You can further buff the pack size of Eater and Exarch monsters and their clusters at the top. League changes. Essence monoliths and white maps now spawn up to a maximum tier of Screaming. Yellow and red maximum tier of Shrieking. So deafening essences, it doesn't seem like can be obtained. Bestiary recipe for gaining Atlas missions now gives 5 Kirak missions. You can turn Amulet into Talisman with Bestiary. Essence Scarabs are with Hillock. Wait, and Transportation essences. Verici Research, Harvest Scarabs. Hillock Research, Anarchy Scarabs, so you can't use Hillock to put quality on things anymore. Jorgen Research, Ritual. Aisling Research, Beyond. Hillock Fortification, a trapped stash of Scarabs. Verici Intervention, Delirium Scarabs. Guff Intervention, Incursion Scarabs. Corel Intervention, Influencing Scarabs. So going back to this, whoever made this theorized that this was Anarchy. Rogue Exile Scarabs, these are Influence Scarabs, which could be the... Okay, there's a Shaper Scarab in here, there's an Elder Scarab in here, and then there's 2 others. So that is from Corel. Sources of divination card drops from League content, such as Legion, Blight, Delirium, Heist, Ritual, Expedition, and Delve, now instead drop stacked decks. I wonder if that's a nerf to Heist, because the Heist chests dropped div cards and stacked decks. Clasped hands and breach encounters open when you walk over them. Breach splinters are also now the only items that have a chance to drop from these chests. Harvest crafts for Uber Elder. Omens are now offered as ritual rewards. Synthesized maps are now T14 only, not T11 up. The unique Cortex synthesized map can no longer drop from Atlas map bosses or be obtained as a reward from other League content. Synthesized map bosses and the Forgotten Invitation now is the access to Cortex. Okay, that makes sense. I'm okay with that. Map sub-areas no longer have +1 area level, so Abyssal Depths and the Lab Trials don't get +1 level. Some maps being removed, some being added. We get Toxic Sewer back. We're losing City Square, no! They're taking the Laboratory, but not taking the Lava Chamber. Kirak mods. There's a lot more of them now. Anarchy, Torment, Domination, Essence, Blight, Ritual, Beyond, Heist, Legion, Ultimatum, Abyss, Breach, Expedition, Harbinger, Harvest, Ambush, and Delirium. Ambush costs 7 Chaos Orbs for 5 additional strongboxes. That seems insane. That is very costly. They dropped the Ultimatum cost from 10 to 5 though. And then I talked a about. The Soul Eater changes. Can no longer get block above 90%. Unholy Might now gives 100% of Fizz damage converted to Chaos and chance to apply Wither on hit instead of Fizz's extra Chaos. Monster Life increases in T17 maps, no longer applied to Life of Corpses. And yeah, there's lots of skill gem changes. Absolution of Inspiring damage buff. Animate Guardian of Smiting damage buff. Animate Weapon of Self-Reflection buff. Archmage rework. Ball Lightning of Static, no totems. Blade Blast of Dagger Detonation, damage buff at the top end. Blade Fury of Incision, crit chance buff. Blade Trap of Great Swords, effectiveness of added damage buffed. So I might make a build guide for that build that I made. Blade Vortex of the Scythe, damage buffed. Blink Arrow of Prismatic Clones, damage buff. Cleave of Rage, radius per rage nerf. Divine Ire of Holy Lightning, damage buffed and AoE buffed. Dominating Blow buffed. Essence Drain of Desperation, big buff. Explosive Concoction of Destruction, crit chance buff. Explosive Trap of Shrapnel, damage buff, AoE nerf. Exsanguinate Transmission, life cost increase, cast time increase, damage increase, duration increase on quality. Firestorm of Pelting, can have 2 more Firestorms, that's cool. Flame Surge of Combusting buffed. Quality gives this an additional 10. Like, this is a very strong gem. Flicker Strike of Power, crit chance buffed. Frostblades of Catabasis buffed. Frost Blink, effectiveness of added damage goes up. Frost Blink of Wintry Blast, had its damage nerfed, but effectiveness of added damage has gone up slightly. Galvanic Field of Intensity buff. General's Cry cooldown reduced. Ice Crash of Cadence damage buff. Kinetic Orb of Fragmentation is being nerfed pretty heavily, it looks like. Lancing Steel of Spraying, top end nerf. Lightning Arrow of Electrocution buff there. Lightning Spire Trap of Overloading, big buff on that for coverage. Mirror Arrow of Prismatic Clones, damage buff. Hidden Brand of Dissipation, like big nerfs. Power Siphon of the Archmage, buffed actually. Raid of Arrows of Artillery, a minor buff. Raise Specters of Transience, max number of added Specters from 4 to 6. Raise Zombie of Falling, not be used by Detonate Dead. Scourge Arrow of the Menace now has each spore pod fires 4 thorns from 5, so that's a nerf. Shield Crush of the Chieftain, damage per armor buff, more AoE but loses damage on quality. Shrapnel Ballista of Steel, attack speed buff. Sniper's Mark nerf, big nerf to the splitting. Spark of Unpredictability, damage buff. Spectral Throw of Materializing, damage buff. Stormbrand of Indecision, damage nerf. I never got around to trying that out, but Archmage Stormbrand is dead anyways. SRS, big nerf. Summon Chaos Golem of the Maelstrom. Golem's Chaos Aura now deals more damage over time. Summon Flame Golem of the Meteor, more damage. Summon Ice Golem of Shattering. Golem's On Death Projectile Nova now has 2 extra projectiles, deals more damage. Summon Skeletons of Archers, deal more damage. Summon Stone Golem of Safeguarding, gets buffed. Melee damage is taken from Golem's life before you. Tornado Shot, attack speed nerf. Mana cost nerf. Quality nerf. Unearthed Corpse Life nerf. Void Sphere of Rending, pulse rate buff. Volatile Dead, after reaching the maximum number of orbs at a time, the oldest existing orbs no longer explode, they are simply killed. I would say that's a subtle nerf. Ascendancy changes, some reworks to Necromancer. They didn't specify that this is a Necromancer thing, nor this one. Summon Sigils of Radiance have had their damage and AoE slightly nerfed. Okay, the damage just got a big cut there. Call to Arms Keystone passive no longer makes Warcries instant, but can make Warcries also grant their buffs to nearby allies. New ES Mastery, 50% of energy shield added to stun threshold, which replaces stun threshold is based on 60% of your ES instead of life. Okay, I'm okay with that. It's better for like a life ES hybrid now. Mind Mastery, detonate mines is triggered while you are moving, and that replaces increased AoE for each mine. And then changes to Forethought and Dreamer. Forethought now gives flat mana. Dreamer gives only mana regen, instead of both of them giving both before. Unique changes, Ralakash's Impatience no longer provide movement speed, which affects existing versions of item. I double corrupted that, thinking that a change was coming, but hoping that it would legacy. And then changes on unique items with Soul Eater and Unholy Might. Extractor Mentis now gives Chaotic Might, which provides the same original effect. Iron Mask unique sword from Heist buffed. Item changes. You can now identify corrupted items. The Void is a boss exclusive divination card. Has a chance to drop from the Shaper, Elder, and Maven. Rogue Exiles and beyond can no longer roll on maps. The Veiled modifier that provides reduced mana cost of skills during effect can no longer be unveiled or crafted on flasks. Ruby, Sapphire, and Topaz flasks are getting max res, going back to what they were before they were changed to less damage taken of the element. Both of these are big nerfs to Mage Blood. Corruption outcome for maps can add an implicit. Big nerf to the Res that can roll on flasks. That's also primarily a Mage Blood nerf. Jewel suffix that grants reduced mana cost can no longer roll. Yikes. Added a set of modifiers that cause strongboxes to contain additional scarabs of a particular type. These modifiers can be found on strongboxes, ornate strongboxes, and large strongboxes. Okay, so they're doing away with the ornate or the operative strongbox, but strongboxes can roll scarab mods. That's fine. So tattoos can be acquired with the new league mechanic, but a lot of these are being changed. Chance to shock instead of spell block, lightning damage instead of flat, chance to poison instead of recoup, percent chaos instead of flat chaos. I'm not going to read through all of these. Big change with the mana regen one. The 3 flat mana regen was way better than 8% mana regen. 5% chance to ignite instead of enemies you kill have a chance to explode. Yeah, kind of big nerfs to all of the tattoos. The Blessing of Moosh divination card has been re-enabled and now awards a corrupted level 21 transfigured gem. Divine Justice, corrupted Grand Spectrum. Doriani's Epiphany, corrupted level 21 gem with 20 quality. Dying Anguish divination card awards level 19 transfigured gem with 19% quality. The Hook, 2123 corrupted transfigured gem. Terrible Secret of Space, corrupted level 21 Golem gem, transfigured. All these are transfigured. So there is a way through divination cards and primarily the Dying Anguish, because this won't give you a corrupted one. I think this card is fairly easily farmable in the maps that it shows up in. You can farm transfigured gems outside of lab. It's something. It's not what I wanted. I wanted a currency to transfer your gem. I'll take it. Ruthless specific changes. Monster balance. Cycling damage reduction has been reworked to adaptive resistance. Monsters will become resistant to the highest damage type taken. Fire, cold, lightning, or chaos should not affect physical. Tormented Spirit's life has gone up. Lycia's lightning wave skill has new visual effects. Strongbox, increased chest level, can no longer roll. Unique strongboxes for warbands. Only +1 chest level instead. User interface changes. Added notification for when you unlock a new map device crafting option. Add the ability to control shift left click stackable item to move all copies of it straight to the trade window. So cool. Control left click to apply currency over and over. Pressing Alt on a map now shows the monster level for that map. That's cool. Then there's a bunch of bug fixes. Fixed a bug where the split beams from Arc of Surging could target the same enemy. Fixed a bug where the chance to freeze monster mod only had 1% chance, it's now 25. Fixed a bug where Stygian spires were affected by additional projectiles. Iron Commander and Replica Iron Commander will now increase the number of siege and shrapnel ballistas if using transfigured gems. Ooh, this is a big bug fix. Fixed a bug where effects that occur when you curse a non-cursed enemy would still occur if you failed to apply a curse due to the enemy due to the number of curses you can apply being 0. This was broken, actually. Right, and I think that covers all that's here. There definitely will be like more things we get information about as the days go on. There might be more transfigured gems. I think I saw that mentioned. But the biggest thing that I wanted, transfigured gems, not having to do lab, that's not in here. So I'm absolutely not interested really in playing solo self-found, having to run lab over and over. So I will be going forward with setting up a private league with my community through Discord, and I am super excited for Necropolis and to get playing with these new Scarabs. I think I'm more excited for that than I am the league itself, but there's going to be a lot to explore with the league. I'm excited. But that's going to do it for this one. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, definitely hit the like button as it really helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss more videos from me. If you'd like to help support my channel, please consider using the super thanks, the heart icon just below the video, or by joining to become a member. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.